بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا
السلام
ونبينا
عليكم شكرا.
محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة الأبدية على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام الدين. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. نعم. So inshallah we are going to discuss today our final session about the bahth of Sayyid al-Khuy on Taqleed. I know it has been long and too stretched, but inshallah we'll try to keep it short and I will summarize the bahth next time, and we will inshallah try to get the juice out of it inshallah and then give it to you rather than giving you the whole detailed bahth. So inshallah from next week we'll try our best to cover the topic of the bahth of Sayyid Sistani and Sayyid al-Khuy in the moon sighting issue, the local sighting or the multiple one sighting or global sighting or a local sighting. So global sighting versus local sighting, inshallah, we are planning to do it next week, inshallah, if Allah wills. Bidnillahi ta'ala. So at this point we are going to start the bahth on complete the bahth which was remaining on the taqleed of A'lam. So now if you recall, we started the bahth all the way from the beginning. From the beginning, we started the bahth of Sayyid al-Khuy about Taqleed al-Alam because it's a controversial issue. So we wanted the Hausa students to have the grasp and the depth of it. So we discussed we had divided the sessions into the way I'm going to index now. The evidence of those who said taqleed of A'lam is not obligatory. We mentioned their evidences, and Sayyid al-Khuy rejected all those evidences with his intellectual arguments. In the intellectual arguments, Sayyid al-Khuy would be the king of the arguments. Intellectually, that's the field of Sayyid al-Khuy. He's the lion of the intellectual arguments. So he rejected all those through intellectual arguments. Then we started talking about the tab'id, partial taqleed. We discussed that, and then we spoke about the we spoke about the equality between the maraja, or if we are not able to find out the a'lam, we also discussed that. And we spoke about the optional proof and the specific proof, hujjiyat takhiriyya, hujjiyat ta'yiniyya. Today, inshallah, we are going to finalize it by asking Sayyid al-Khuy, Sayyidina, okay, all this here and there, what is your evidence? What is your evidence that it is obligatory to follow the a'lam? It is wajib to do the taqleed of a'lam. What is your evidence? Okay, you rejected the evidences of those who said taqleed of those who said that taqleed of a'lam is not wajib. You rejected their evidence. Now we are asking you, Sayyidina, what is your evidence of consider a'lam the obligatory to do taqleed to a'lam? So it's no problem. Let's see. The the first evidence of Sayyid al-Khuy is he says that وَقَدْ اسْتُدُلَّ it has been proven that the obligation to do taqleed to a'lam with several evidences. So he does not mention his evidence only. He mentions the evidences which were presented by others who considered taqleed of a'lam obligatory. Okay. So he said, وَقَدْ أَشَرْنَا إِلَىٰ أَنَّ الْمُطْلَقَاتِ الْوَارِدَةِ. There are absolute evidences. Mutlaq means absolute, inclusive. Okay, so these inclusive evidences says you have to do taqleed to a marja. That means a lay person should refer to a knowledgeable. That is the absolute evidences from the Quran, from the Hadith, from the intellectual society. All these evidences indicate these general indication. An ignorant person should refer to a scholar. A lay person should refer to a jurisprudence. So there is this kind of evidence. Without any doubt, a lay person cannot depend on himself. Period. Okay, what about referring to the alim? He said these evidences are only indicating that a lay person should refer to a scholar. It does not indicate that whenever there are two scholars, they conflict, they have conflicting statements, fatwas, you have an option to choose anyone. This is a scholar, this is a scholar. If you refer to this scholar, you are applying the rule of referring to a scholar. You are referring to this scholar, you are applying the rule of referring to a scholar. Evidences of referring to a scholar. He says, no, stop, not here. We cannot extend the evidences or the indications of the absolute evidences of referring to a scholar to a case or a scenario where scholars, they have differences in opinion. Here you have to refer to the most knowledgeable. Okay, so he says that we have indicated previously that the absolute evidences which have been mentioned in the book Quran and the narrations akhbar, they are not inclusive to the case where two scholars, they disagree on an issue like moon sighting issue. So when there is a difference in moon sighting issue or difference in fatwa, then our duty and responsibility is to see who is the most knowledgeable. So here he says, because the intellect, after all those prerequisites, it is independent. Okay, it is independent. It independently indicates that the religious authority has made a path, has made a route without any doubt for a lay person to become aware about his responsibility. There's no doubt. A lay person needs to have the knowledge about his responsibility, which has been represented by the Islamic sources. How can a lay person reach that? Okay, without any doubt, he says, it is not the precautionary measures or precaution. وَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ وَالْإِحْتِيَاطِ. Why? Because ihtiyat is not applicable, not practical for all the laymen. No, not everybody can do ihtiyat, and not in every instance. Like he said, when there's a clash between haram and wajib, you can't do ihtiyat, you have to do taqleed. You can't do precaution. That's number one. Number two, he said, when there's a shortage of time, like what? Like this marja says qasr, this marja says tamam, like kathir safar for say the Sistani followers. So one of them is say qasr, one of them. So what should I do? I have to do ihtiyat. If I don't know who's a'lam, I'm going to do precautionary measures, do qasr and tamam. What if I don't have time to do qasr and tamam every time and every moment? What if the time is short? I can't do ihtiyat. So ihtiyat is not practical in that area. Okay, that's number two. Number three, a sick person can barely perform his one salat. You'll tell him to do two salat, you'll tell him to do precaution, you'll tell him to do this and that, and tayammum and wudu and this and that. He'll become crazy. He's already sick, he'll become more sick. So he can't. Or let's say, as he says, mawarid al-ihtiyat ghair mutayassira. The sources of precaution. How will a lay person know who is saying wajib, who's saying musta'ab, who's saying what? How will I know what are the rulings of this maraja? So therefore, the sources of precaution, the ihtiyat is not simple. It's not easy for lay people to do ihtiyat. So that's why he says, لأنه غير ميسور في حقه. So that means Sharia must have made a route for a layman who's not a mujtahid. If he's a mujtahid, he has to follow his knowledge, whatever he perceives, conceives, or concludes from his knowledge. But if he's not a mujtahid, ihtiyat is tough. Not everybody can do ihtiyat. So he has to follow a mujtahid. He has to follow mujtahid. وفي حقه ولا أنه الظن لأن لا ظن للمقلد. um, he says that it is not the probability that he chooses the probable, because the probability doesn't have any effect initially. Later on, yes, but initially the probability does not have any effect. لأنه لا ظن للمقلد أو لا أثر له. مقلد, the ظن, the larger probability doesn't have an effect. I think it is wajib. No, you can't think it is wajib. I think it is mustahab. No. What is your base? You're a layperson. You don't have evidences. You don't have the depth of Islamic knowledge or learning about the rules of the hadith, authentic hadith, the indications, the zahir, the batin, all these kind of things. So you can't, for a layperson, you can't rely on the assumptions. So then only one path is there. يكون الطريق فتوى عالم ما. So you have to refer to one of the scholars. So now والقدر المتيقن فتوى الأعلم فيحتاج حجية فتوى الأعلم غير الأعلم إلى دليل. He says now we know that a lay person, he can't do ijtihad, he's not a mujtahid. He can't do ihtiyat. It's difficult most of the time for a lay person, especially those people who are living in jungle, villages. It's very difficult for them to find out the sources of ihtiyat and the other reasons mentioned for inability for every lay person to do ihtiyat. So the only path is remaining taqleed. And the intellect says you have to do taqleed of a'lam. So now, to refer to non-a'lam, I need a proof. I need an exceptional case. I need an exemption. So if there is no dalil to refer to the non-a'lam, no exceptional case, then you have to follow the a'lam. So he says, وَالْقَدَرِ الْمُتَيَقَّنِ, we know for sure that referring to the a'lam is obligatory when there are differences, obviously, between the maraja. Therefore, to refer to non-a'lam with the existence of a'lam, I need exceptional case. I need evidence allowing me in the sharia to refer to non-a'lam. Okay, without that dalil, I cannot refer to non-a'lam. Is that clear? So that means the Quran and the Hadith, they indicate only referring to the most to the scholar. They don't indicate referring to the most knowledgeable in the case of differences. So when there are differences, the intellect chooses to refer to the most knowledgeable. Why? Because the Sharia has made a route for a mukallaf, responsible person, to refer to someone. And who's that someone? He is the scholar. Okay, if I have several scholars and they have differences, then you have to refer to the most knowledgeable. In this case, to refer to the less knowledgeable, we need evidence, and that evidence does not exist. So therefore, it is necessary to do taqlid of a'lam. Okay, let's move to the next one. This is the main and only evidence of Sayyid al-Khoi, in referring to the a'lam. If you understood this, khalas. Say you know that what is the evidence of a'lam. Why a'lam, a'lam, a'lam? This is why. So his evidence is the lifestyle of the intellectuals. Okay, he says the lifestyle of the intellectuals. I'm looking at the Arabic text and translating directly because it takes too much time looking at Arabic and English together. So if you know Arabic, you can follow up with me. If you don't know Arabic, you can follow the English side. He says, the lifestyle of the intellectuals, the norm of the intellectuals, the habit of the intellectuals, whenever they have differences in the professionals, they choose the most knowledgeable. Okay, they will not go to less knowledgeable. Okay, so there's a practice. there's a practice of the intellectual society, the intellectuals. Whenever there's a conflict between two professionals, they will try to choose the most knowledgeable. Okay? And this practice was done in front of the Ma'sooms alayhimussalam. This is done today. Before it was done, and before 1,000 years it was done, before 2,000 it was here done. So our Ma'sooms, they lived this lifestyle of intellectual for 250 years. They never ever told their companions, neither Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, neither any of the Imam, do not follow the lifestyle of the intellectuals. Do not rely on the most knowledgeable rule. Most knowledgeable is wrong. And there's no condemnation. There's no prohibition from our Ma'sumeen alayhi Islam prohibiting us in following the most knowledgeable. So that's it. Finish. That's the argument of Sayyid al-Khoury. The argument completed. So what is this long? I'm going to go to it long. But this is the nutshell of the argument. The lifestyle of the intellectuals. They refer to professionals. When the professionals, they have conflict, they refer to the most knowledgeable, most experienced professional. Okay? And this practice, Exhibit B, this practice, Exhibit A, lifestyle of the intellectuals, they refer to the professionals. When professionals, they conflict, they refer to the most knowledgeable. Exhibit A done. Exhibit B, what is Exhibit B? Exhibit B is this lifestyle has been extended since the time of Aristotle and Plato and all those people. And it went along with in the era of our Ma'sumeen alayhi Islam. They observed it. They did not say this is wrong. Finish. That means the lifestyle of the intellectual in choosing the most knowledgeable is proven. Okay, that's it. This is the nutshell of the argument of Sayyid al-Khoury. So what does he say? He says, and the lifestyle of the intellectuals has been, the practice there has been that they refer to A'lam, the most knowledgeable, when they know that there is a conflict between them, as it is observed in non-religious ruling areas, okay, such as professionals and sciences. So like doctor, you have a doctor telling you surgery, doctor telling you you'll have pills. Okay, so now you will see which one of them is most knowledgeable, most experienced, most praised, most people benefited from them. You as an intellect, because you don't want to put yourself in danger. In Sharia, if you choose less knowledgeable, he says that you might be going against whatever is required from you. So that means your act or your deed, you cannot depend on it, because you refer to a non-knowledgeable, less knowledgeable. That means for sure there is a probability that you have not fulfilled your responsibility. Then for sure there's a probability that you have opened yourself for the door for punishment and accountability. Munajjiziyya. So that means you cannot rely on less knowledgeable, because you're putting yourself in danger. If you choose less knowledgeable, let's say less knowledgeable said we'll do surgery. You don't want to take that chance. It might mess up with your system. It might mess up. Like many doctors, they have done it. Many surgeries, they have gone. Nowadays, they put a disclaimer, you have to sign it. And if I mess up in my surgery, I'm not taking the responsibility of paying you compensation. So they make that signature. I'll not put my hand in your stomach unless you give me release form, okay? Then I'm relieved from any kind of liability and responsibility. So the intellectual society, if they feel that there is a probability the doctor might mess up with my body, they will not go to that. So when they find out that the less professional person is giving me an option where he's going to cut my stomach, no, I don't want to go there. So there was some doctors in Pakistan. So there were some cheap doctors. They will have these flashy certificates and everything, but then these certificates were not authenticated by people. So we don't know about their knowledge, and they're knowledgeable. So people would go there and come out with more and more severe consequences, and eventually they will have to go to a true doctor. Okay, so then people learned not to go to these cheap doctors, even if they have some flashy certificates, and not to go to expensive doctors, even if they're to ask for the more professional, more accurate, to ask for people who have done their practice, experienced these doctors. So there's this intellectual society. They don't take chances. So in religious system also, when you are referring to less knowledgeable, okay, marja or mujtahid, that means you are putting yourself in jeopardy of being accountable or and being punished on the day of judgment, because intellect tells you to refer to the knowledgeable, and intellectual evidences are parts of religious evidences. That means Sharia tells you to refer to the most knowledgeable through intellectual evidences, and you are not doing so. That means you're putting yourself in probable violation to the command of Allah, and therefore you are putting yourself in probable accountability and probable punishment. But when you refer to the knowledgeable, because the religious evidences and intellectual evidences, they direct us towards, or the intellect, and intellect is part of the religious direction. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the intellect hujjah. So I'm following my intellect, the intellect of the community of the intellectuals. So that means I'm relieved. If Allah will ask me on the day of judgment, why did you do this and why didn't you follow that person? Ya Allah, you gave me intellect, and you told me that the intellect is hujjah, okay, the aql is hujjah. So therefore I followed the intellect. So forgive me if I've done wrong. So Allah says, okay, no problem, I'll forgive you. So there, if you follow the intellectual direction and intellectual evidences or religious evidences, you are relieved, because those evidences are hujjah. Remember, we are discussing hujjah, proof, liability. Am I relieved or am I accountable? This is what we are looking. We're not looking what in reality the rule of Allah is. That is close to impossible. Only Ma'soom can tell us, alayhi salam. But for us, for human being, other than Ma'soom, we have to see, am I going to be relieved on the day of judgment or not? I'm seeking relief for my responsibility on the day of judgment. So that's why he's saying that. Now look, I'll give you another example. You apply for a job. In job, they look at two people. One has bachelor degree, one has master degree. The intellectual society, both are same qualifications. Engineering, this, but one has master degree. So obviously, the master degree is given preference. Intellectual society. In non-intellectual society, corruption, partialism, money, friendship overrules the master degree guy. Okay, oh, he's my cousin, I have to offer him a job. Oh, sorry, once the job is available, inshallah, we have already made our selection. So corrupted societies, they don't follow the intellect. The doctors, they are selling insurance, or they are selling fruits and vegetables in those carts in the sabzi market and fruit market. And so this is the problem in the corrupted society. But in the intellectual society, no, the intellectual measures, they take over. So master degree, they will give him more preference. Let's say two people, they have master degrees or they have bachelor degrees, but one has more experience, because the more you work in a field, the more you grasp, the more your knowledge expands, the more you get the depth of your field. So they will say, how much experience you have? I have 5 years. How much experience? 1 year. So we will choose 5 years. So nowadays, that it has become part that we will hire minimum experience. You need to have 2 years. That means the guy who has graduated, he has to work free somewhere to get 2 years experience or 3 years. If you will not work free somewhere to get, because nobody will hire him unless you work as a trainee for 2-3 years and without any or less pay, and then you get this resume. Is now you have this resume that now you have experience. So this is what, this is the intellectual society has imposed this system of choosing more expert, more experience. So that means, okay, now what happens when somebody has master degree but less experience? Somebody has bachelor degree, more experience. What will you choose? Here, intellectuals, they differ. Some look at experience as more knowledgeable because of practical knowledge. Some look at degree as more knowledge, but that's a theoretical. So mostly, many of the firms where they need practical direction, they choose the one who has more practical work done. Those who are looking for management and intellectual work, they look more at the one who has less experience but has a master degree. So it depends. These are intellectual criterias. Okay. So therefore, he says that كما هو المشاهد في غير الأحكام. We observe, it is observed in the professional areas, in the intellectual society, not corrupted society. So therefore, and that's why, because we Middle Easterns, we have so much corruption, even the marja'iyah has been influenced by that corrupted system. Oh no, we go by nationalism. He's from my country, I'm going to follow him. He's from my country. Hello, what happened to the qualifications? Okay, he speaks Arabic, he speaks Persian, he speaks Urdu, he speaks this, he speaks Afghani, he speaks whatever languages. What happened to the qualifications? You see, so that's a problem. Or he is this kind of direction. He is Azadari guy, he is political guy, he is that kind of guy, he is this guy. Come on, that has never been criteria in the intellectual society. The whole taqlid is based on the intellectual society. So these personal individual inclinations have corrupted the system of choosing the marja. The way we used to choose, or we are choosing still, the way we are choosing our workers in our jobs, we started choosing the maraji also. I'm not talking about everybody, I'm talking about the many people. Okay, many people. There are corrupt mujtahideen, people, they started choosing corrupt mujtahideen. Okay, corrupt maraja, deviated direction, messed up system. We have not just influenced our society, social society, but we have influenced our religious society as well. So therefore, the intellectual society, the society of the intellect, they looked at qualifications and professionalism. They, even in marja'iyah, there is a professionalism. It's part and parcel of the intellectual society. Anyhow, let's go back. So we said that Sharia did not stop this practice. So now there's an exceptional case. He says, وَيُسْتَثْنَى مِنْ ذَلِكَ. There's an exceptional case. What Sayyidina? If the most knowledgeable had a fatwa and less knowledgeable had a fatwa in accordance, in line with ihtiyat, precaution. So most knowledgeable said mustahab. Less knowledgeable said it is wajib. So sometimes the intellectuals might choose wajib, but not for the hujjiyah, because it's proof. No, because it's precaution, to cover up the mustahab as well. Because if you do it as wajib, then you have done it as mustahab. So a'lam is inclusive in the fatwa of non-a'lam. Okay? In the case where the non-a'lam has a precautionary fatwa, precautionary situation. Let's take in our medical field. A doctor tells you, I'm going to cut you open. That's the most knowledgeable doctor. A'lam tells you, I'm going to cut you. I'm going to put my hand inside your appendicitis or your stomach or your kidney or whatsoever. I'm going to cut you open. That's the only way I can treat you. Less knowledgeable says, I will give you pills. Okay, let's try the pills out. So now, what is the precautionary measure? Because when he cuts you open, there is a kind of threatful situation. Okay, more mess might be created, or no, you might get cured. But he's professional, he's intellectual. So he's telling me I'm good. So when people, they cut you open, they do surgery, there is a problem sometimes. Surgery is not guaranteed 100% to be successful. There are always chances of not being successful, even minimum chances. and surgeons by themselves, they declare it. Because you're messing up with the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intact. You're making it open for an inside world, the world which is only dealt by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by what you consume. But now somebody is going to put his hand, put his knife, put his thread, put his stitches, everything. A lot of changes are going to happen. So therefore, there are side effects from the surgery. Everyone says. And then the medications of surgery and this and that. So sometimes intellectuals, they will choose to have pills and try it out. Okay, to try out the pills and stay away from, even if the A'lam says surgery is the only option, wait until you try the pills out. So you're doing precaution. You're going to take the pills, you're going to check. If it doesn't happen, then you're going to let him cut open. So this is a precautionary measure, like doing qasr. This marja says do qasr and tamam. That marja says do qasr only. So when you do qasr and tamam, you are including that option as well. Okay, so precautionary measures, they're inclusive to the fatwa of a'lam. So it is not because less a'lam is hujjah. It is because less a'lam is giving you a direction which is inclusive to the fatwa of the most knowledgeable. Who is hujjah? Who is hujjah? The proof is there. Excusability and inexcusability, mu'adhirin munajjiz is there. So this is what he says. And an exceptional case would be ما إذا كانت فتوى الأعلم, if the most knowledgeable fatwa was against the precautionary measures and the less knowledgeable fatwa was according to the precautionary measures, such as the most knowledgeable said it is permissible and the less knowledgeable said it is obligatory. Wajib. فإن العقلاء. So sometimes intellectuals in these cases situation, even if they are not referring to less knowledgeable, their lifestyle is to refer to the most knowledgeable. But sometimes they might refer to less knowledgeable. Why? لا لأن فتواه حجة عندهم. Not because their fatwa of less knowledgeble's fatwa is proof. No, because it is a precaution. فيأتون به برجاء درك الواقع. So they are doing it. لا بل لأنه عمل بالاحتياط. On the contrary, because it is in accordance, in line with precaution. So they are doing it for the hope that they have reached the reality, whatever reality. Because the marja says it's mustahab. Okay, permissible. So I'm relieved. But what precaution makes you is to touch the reality. For sure, I'm not going against the reality, because the reality is two options, either mustahab, either wajib. So if I do wajib, at least I have reached the reality. So he says, in the hope to reach the reality. لا يمكن إسناد ما أفتى به غير الأعلم إلى الله. We cannot say what less knowledgeable has said, Allah wants from you. Because the dalil al-aqli, evidences are pointing towards the most knowledgeable. So that is what Allah wants me. But if I do precaution, that means I have reached the reality. So it is not, because the less knowledgeable is not proof, is not hujjah, does not take me to Allah. But yes, allows me, because it's inclusive to the most knowledgeable, the ruling of it is inclusive. So mustahab is included in wajib. So therefore, I am relieved from the liability in reality. والإتيان به بقصد الأمر والوجوب. Okay. وهذا الوجه هو الذي نعتمد عليه. And this is the evidence, this is the argument, this is the criteria which we are depending in making the taqlid of a'lam obligatory, which is our argument here. Here, Sayyid al-Khuy is done, finished. But now we are saying, what about the other scholars who have given other evidences with regards to taqlid of a'lam? He said to me, they are not reliable evidences. But Sayyidina, can you please benefit us with those? Let us know. Yeah, why not? Let's go. Bismillah. Now, these are the arguments with other scholars. They used to support the taqlid of A'lam, but Sayyid al-Khuy doesn't support it. He says, الثاني ما عن المحقق الثاني. In the first lecture of taqlid, we mentioned محقق الكركي, not karaki. Karak yani strong, solid. Chai karak yani the karak chai. When you boil the tea more and more and more, it becomes strong tea. So Iraqis, they love this tea. For them, chai karak is like it becomes like dibis. It becomes like honey. You see, my teacher, chemistry teacher, is saying that these Iraqis, the tea they make, the more they boil and boil and boil, it becomes like tannic acid. Like it becomes like a paint. You know, tannic acid is in the paint. You paint your walls. They're drinking paint, but they enjoy it. Is it haram? Unless if it's harmful. So let us drink. Okay, enjoy. Because I don't like tea. So I don't like karak tea, nor the naram tea, everything. I only drink tea if I have headache as a pill to relieve my headache. You guys who are used to teas, you have lost this opportunity to relieve your headache with tea. And that's why you're referring to the chemical and the pills. But for me, whenever I have headache, a cup of tea, I use it just for headache, and that's once in a blue moon. Okay, so now we come back to Muhaqqiq al-Karki, not Karaki. Just I remember we were in Iraq, so our some of our Khoja groups and Indo-Pakistani, they will stop. You know, there's sometimes Hajjiya and these ladies and some old people. They make this tea. They're sitting in the on the middle of the crossing of the road, and they're sitting there. So anyone passes by, that's a strategic location. So whoever passes by, they pass by these tea bakers. So they give you tea. So some of our beloved ones, they stopped. I said, what are you doing? First of all, it's tannic acid. And then the pollution, the cup has been washed in the same water. I said, Sheikh, let us enjoy. We are here at the Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Is it haram? I said, if it's harmful, then if you get diarrhea, don't complain. I told you, the cup has been washed in it. But those poor people there, they want to benefit. Okay, give them money. Why are you putting yourself in harm? I'm not stopping you from giving them money. I'm telling you, it's better, don't poison yourself. But they drink, and alhamdulillah, they were healthy. Those who did not drink, they got diarrhea. But those who drank, mashallah, because tea has a positive effect of holding your loose motions. So therefore, some of the people, they prescribe tea as something which holds your loose motion. Anyhow, let's come back to the Muhaqqiq al-Karaki. So the Indian Pakistanis, when they make this karak, because it's so karak, it's heavy, they put milk in it to neutralize it. But the Iraqis, they are solid. Yeah, they know we are going to drink this. So anyhow, Muhaqqiq al-Karki is one of the giants. Now let me tell you one thing here. Sayyid al-Khuy is a giant. There's so many maraja. They will say arguments which are flawed arguments. Sayyid al-Khuy will ignore them. He will catch these big fishes, the big giants, like Muhaqqiq al-Karki, okay, Sheikh al-Ansari, Akhund al-Khurasani, these great giants, Muhaqqiq al-Naimi. He will catch these, and if they have made flaws, errors in the academic direction, he will catch them and rebuttal them. Because he knows that these people, if I catch their error, then alhamdulillah, I'm developing myself. Because I was able to catch error on a great giant's academic. And this is permissible in Islamic Sharia, because this allows our intellectual arguments to develop more and more. And the same thing, Shaheed al-Sadr, radwanullah alayh, he would do the same thing. And he would catch the big fish, big giants of Hausa, you know. And then he will find points of criticism and say, he made, this is error, this is error, this is error. So Sayyid al-Khuy will catch like these. So there are others also said same thing, like the way Muhaqqiq al-Karki said. But no, Sayyid al-Khuy says, I want to catch Muhaqqiq al-Karki because he's one of the giants. Okay, so so Muhaqqiq al-Karki, he said that his evidence, what is your evidence? Muhaqqiqna al-Fadil al-Amili, he's a Lebanese from Jabal Amil, Quddus Sirra, min da'wa al-ijma', claim that there is ijma'. He claimed that a'lam, what is the evidence of a'lam? Ijma', consensus of the scholars, okay, that you cannot refer to non-a'lam. You have to do taqlid to a'lam. Sayyid al-Khuy says, Muhaqqiqna al-Ghali, Muhaqqiqna al-Aziz, my beloved Muhaqqiq, that is not right. How? He says, those who says it is not obligatory to do taqlid to a'lam, they said also ijma', because there are certain scholars, they claim that there is ijma', and there are certain scholars, they do not agree. They said there is no evidence to do taqlid to a'lam. And there are certain scholars, they say there are evidences to taqlid to a'lam. So where can we get ijma'? Ijma' means everybody, all of the scholars, they have one decision. Now we have two decisions. Those who, like Muhaqqiq al-Karki, who says you have to follow alam, he says, what's your evidence? Ijma', consensus. What about those who says you don't, like Sayyid Mar'ash al-Najafi, rahmatullah alayh, he did not have Alamiyah wujub. It's not wajib to do taqlid to alam, Sayyid Mar'ash al-Najafi. He says ijma'. Okay, ijma', it doesn't go like that. Then ijma' means all the scholars are saying one word. But here we have two groups of scholars. One is saying a'lam is wajib, one is saying a'lam is not wajib. One is saying ijma'. So he said that ijma' is not reliable, Muhaqqiq al-Ghali. He says, anna dhalika, and number one. Number two, this ijma', Sayyid al-Khu'i has a problem with this ijma'. Most of the ijma' are transmitted ijma', ijma'at manqula. And even the muhassala, like acquired, like a mujtahid says, I checked this, all the scholars, they said that. This indicates the 12th Imam is there among the mujma'in with qarinat al-hikmah and all the other things we had mentioned before, ijma' proven. So like this ijma' is also very difficultly proven to Sayyid al-Khu'i, because most of the ijma'at which were claimed to be muhassal, some scholars were ignored in the ijma'. That means it is not all the scholars said. There are some scholars, they were not included in the ijma'. So the ijma' was not complete. You can say shuhra, but not ijma'. Shuhra means popularity. Not all of them, majority. But ijma' means everyone. So he says, first of all, Muhaqqiq al-Karki claimed the ijma'. It was transmitted, not muhassal. Second, he says, على أن المسألة لا يحتمل, there's no probability or a room for ijma' here. Why? Because there are a group of scholars, our scholars, they said that it is permissible to do taqlid to non-a'lam. So what about them? Aren't they our scholars? Or no, because they're saying taqlid of a'lam is not wajib, just chuck them out. They're not our scholars. And all those who say it is obligatory to taqlid of a'lam, they are only our scholars. So then ijma' is there. We can't do that. Muhaqqiq al-Ghali. No. So Sayyid al-Khu'i says that there are scholars, they say you can, as we mentioned, the evidences of those who said that you don't have to do taqlid to alam, and one of the evidences was ijma'. And that was Sayyid al-Khu'i in that area also gave similar answer. Sorry, ijma' is not a good supportive evidence for taqlid of alam. Let's go to the next one, narrations. So are there narrations? Yes. There is a narration of Maqbulat Umar ibn Hanzala. Again, this Umar ibn Hanzala pops up here and there. So let's see Umar ibn Hanzala. He says the narration which has been used here, Sheikh, Mashayikh al-Thalatha, three shuyukhs. Who are these three shuyukhs? The authors of the four books. Sheikh al-Kulayni, author of al-Kafi. Sheikh al-Saduq, Man la yahdhur al-Faqih. Sheikh al-Tusi, he had two books, al-Istibsar al-Tahdhib. All of them, they narrated this narration. Maqbulat Umar ibn Hanbala. What does it say? He says, Sa'altu Aba Abdullah. I asked Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. An rajulaini min ashabina. Two of our companions, our Shia bros, they have a conflict, a dispute between them. In a debt, he says, the amount of debt was this much, that's a no, amount of debt was this much, not 10,000 euro, 5,000 euro. Or no, he says, I paid you, he says, you did not pay me. So there's a dispute. Mira, I got my inheritance, I did not get my inheritance. No, we gave you. No, you did not give me. You gave me this much. No, we gave you that much. Dispute is there on. So they need a judge. So they came to two judges. Everybody brought his judge. And these two judges were from the Shias. رجلا من أصحابنا فإن كان كل واحد اختار رجلا. If both of them they chose one scholar from our أصحاب Shias, فرضي أن يكون الناظرين في حقهما. They both of them agreed to look in their case, both of them. واختلف a difference happened between these two judges. So because a mujtahid, a marja is a judge as well. So all the evidences of judge, they use it on the mujtahid, marja taqlid. But still some of the fuqaha, they say no, judiciary system is different than marja'iyah. There is some overlapping, but there are some variances. So, وَاخْتَلَفَ, now these two judges, they are differing. One says no, this is right. One says that is right. وَكِلَاهُمْ اخْتَلَفَ فِي حَدِيثِكُمْ. And they both use the hadith, which is different. This hadith is narrated by you, Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. This also, so they have ikhtilaf in the hadith. Source is mukhtalif. Because they are doing ijtihad, they are deducing the decree. So they're both using different hadith. فقال الإمام عليه الصلاة والسلام. Imam said, الحكم ما حكم به أعدلهما. The judgment will be taken or executed for the one who is most just, God cautious or most just. وأفقههما, this one. Okay, this one. أعدل الحكم ما حكم به أعدلهما وأفقههما, the most knowledgeable of them. This is the only narration indicating as a religious evidence, clearly mentioning the most knowledgeable. وأصدقهما في الحديث, and most reliable in his words, truthful. Okay, so here, most knowledgeable. So خلاص Sayyidina, we have dalil, we have a hadith. So why do we have to go to Sir al-Uqala'iyya, lifestyle of the intellectual? We have clear hadith telling us to choose the most knowledgeable. That's enough. حيث دلت على وجوب تقديم الأفقه. Okay, it indicates that it is obligatory to taqlid of the most knowledgeable. But Sayyid al-Khuy will say, wait. Don't jump into your horses or donkeys or your cars or Ferraris. Look at here. Maqbulat Umar ibn Hanbala. It is accepted narration. What does that mean? That means it's a weak narration. Accepted by our scholars. Why? Because it was popularly used. And you know that in ilm al-hadith, there's a concept which is called ash-shuhra jabira. Ash-shuhra jabira. The use of popular scholars of a weak hadith strengthens it. Sayyid al-Khuy says, sorry, I can't take that. I can't take that concept. Weak hadith is weak hadith. Okay, just because scholars, they used it. I don't know what are their criteria. How do they strengthen it? So it becomes unknown for me. I can't take the concept of shuhra. So Sayyid al-Khuy was strictly rejecting the concept of shuhra. That shuhra makes a weak hadith strong. Okay, so that's why those who relied on this hadith, they must have this concept of ash-shuhra jabira from our previous scholars. And said because the hadith says a'lam, afqah, it is obligatory to refer to the taqlid of a'lam because of this hadith narration. Okay, so now, and some scholars, they say, no, this hadith is not for the taqlid. It is for choosing the judge, the decree, the execution. And we are talking about marja'iyah. So there are variations. We can't do qiyas. This will be qiyas, which is unacceptable qiyas. So anyhow, some they said it's, if it is authentic, unacceptable qiyas. Some they said if it is weak, shuhra jabira, they took it. And to Sayyid al-Khuy, he says it's maqbula. It's a weak hadith, narrated, popularly used, And that's why those who consider shuhra jabira, the popularity covers up the weakness. Covers up the weakness. So that for them, yes. But for me, no. ويرد على هذا الاستدلال. In response, Sayyid al-Khuy says, number one, sanad, the link is weak. Why? Because it's Umar ibn Hanbala. لم يرد في حقه توثيق ولا مدح. There is no authentication from our ulamas of ilm al-rijal, neither any praise. Okay, so he's not reliable, basically. وإن سمي روايته هذه بالمقبولة. Even if his narration, this narration was said by مقبولة, the accepted one, مقبولة حنظلة. وكأن مما تلقته الأصحاب بالقبول. And it seems that our scholars, they accepted it. And it became a popular hadith. وإن لم يثبت هذا أيضا. To me, I don't see our scholars, majority of our scholars, they accepted this hadith. So even there's no shuhra. Sayyid al-Khuy says, if the case was shuhra, even the shuhra is not proven. Rahmatullah alayk, Sayyid al-Khuy. Naam. Sayyid al-Khuy is master in ilm al-rijal. Okay. Sayyid al-Khuy, he says, yes, some people, they made Umar ibn Hanbala authentic. How? By hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam saying, Umar ibn Hanbala doesn't lie on us. That means he's trustworthy. That means take it. Okay. So this is the hadith. Some said this hadith is okay. Why? Because Umar ibn Hanbala is trusted. Why? Because Zayd ibn Khalifa said, I asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, Umar ibn Hanbala brought us the timing criteria from you, how to define the time. Biwaqtin, anka. So Imam Abu Abdullah Sadiq alayhi salam says, Idan la yakdhibu alayna. If Umar said, Umar ibn Hanbala, then he's not lying upon us. Sayyid al-Khuy says, even this narration is weak. Who is Yazid ibn Khalifa to authenticate this hadith, to authenticate the Umar ibn Hanbala? Who is Yazid? So he says, إلا أن تلك الرواية أيضا ضعيفة. He says this narration is also weak. فإن يزيد هذا كعمر. This Yazid is same like Umar. Okay? لم تثبت وثاقته. Their authentication, neither Yazid, neither Umar. They both are not authenticated. Umar ibn Hanbala and Yazid ibn Khalifa. So first let's prove this to prove that. Both are not proven. So this Yazid guy authenticated Umar. Okay. One more narration has been mentioned. Bihar al-Anwar. Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. Subhanallah. And we are going to live the days of Imam Muhammad al-Jawad's martyrdom. Inshallah on Tuesday. Azamallahu ujurakum. So, what does Imam Jawad say? Imam Jawad was a small boy when he started practicing his imamat. So uncles were plenty. Like you know, he was his uncles were brothers of Imam Rida alayhi salam, children of Imam Musa al-Kadhim. Imam Musa al-Kadhim has, mashallah, dozens of sons. Okay, you see in Iran, Shah Chiragh and this and that. Many places you see Imam Musa al-Kadhim's descendants and progenies are there. So his uncle. So when Imam Muhammad was small, many people, they started asking, they thought there's no Imam, okay? Like they thought, then they thought that it is like after Imam Hassan, it was Imam Hussein. They started approaching after Imam Rida alayhi salam, the uncles of Imam Muhammad Jawad, brothers of Imam Rida alayhi salam. So he started giving fatwas. So Imam Muhammad al-Jawad tells his uncle, Ya Am, oh my uncle, إنه عظيم عند الله. It is a great position, great responsibility, great liability, great huge accountability is there. Oh my uncle, when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tomorrow, and Allah an taqif ghadan bayna yadayhi, when he will ask you, لما تفتي عبادي بما لم تعلم. Why did you give fatwa to my servants with something you did not have knowledge of? وَفِي الْأُمَّةِ مَنْ هُوَ أَعْلَمْ مِنْكَ. and there was someone in the nation was most knowledgeable. That means Imam Muhammad al-Jawad. So Muhammad al-Jawad is there. Why did you give fatwa? He's most knowledgeable than you. Argument. Sayyid al-Khuy says, وهذه الرواية وإن كانت تدل على اعتبار العالم المطلقة. He says this narration clearly indicates the direction of absolute most knowledgeable, absolute Alamiyah. That means A'lam in everything. Okay, when there's A'lam, you should not go to non-A'lam. Okay, so here Sayyid al-Khuy says, content-wise, it's a very strong. However, yes, Sayyidina, what is however? Tell us. However, it is weak narration. أنها ضعيفة سندا لإرسالها مرسلة. The narrator does not say who's in the middle of the sanad link. The narrator jumps directly to Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam, who asks his uncle, okay, why are you giving fatwas? So it is a mursal hadith. There's no link. إذن لا يمكن الاستدلال بهذا الوجه. We cannot support our argument of Alamiyah with this hadith, neither these ahadith. So proving Alamiyah through ahadith is not valid. That arguments are not valid. Okay. Now here I have a question to Sayyid al-Khuy. Sayyidina, let's say hypothetically, if this hadith was authentic, then it would be trouble to non-a'lam maraja to give fatwas. How? Because Sayyidina Imam Muhammad al-Jawad says that if a'lam is available, you non-a'lam should not give fatwa. So lucky for those non-a'lam maraja that this hadith is not proven. Because if this hadith was really proven, non-a'lam maraja would have closed their doors of fatwa. Sorry, a'lam is there, go to him, go to him, go to him. So non-a'lam maraja, they say a'lamiyah is not wajib to come to us, it's okay. Okay, but a'lam maraja, they say you have to go to a'lam, who are strong and well experienced and expert. They are trying their best to give accuracy in their fatwa. So they are telling us, we take responsibility if you will come to us. They say Alamiyah is not obligatory, you can come to us. But if this hadith was proven, those people who are saying Alamiyah is not wajib, and they know that they are not well experienced like these A'lam Maraja, like Sayyidi Sistani and others, who has vast experience of Marja'iyah and Ijtihad for long time, long period, and especially Sayyidi Sistani. He's like Harvard University kind of thing. No one has qualification of Ijtihad given to him by Sayyid al-Khu'i in this time other than Sayyidi Sistani. So that's why it is, so it is not, so if this hadith was proven, then all those non-a'lam maraja must close their doors of fatwa and just do taqlid to themselves and not provide themselves to the marja'iyah as long as a'lam is available. Finally, the fourth evidence. The fourth evidence is this was used, but Sayyid al-Khuy says it's not that strong. Why? So the only thing which is to Sayyid al-Khuy, Sir al-Uqala'iyya, lifestyle of the intellectual. This is a deducive evidence, ijtihadi. What does it say? He says fatwa of faqih is a mean to reach the real ruling, hukm al-waqi'i. Okay? Fatwa, why do I have to do taqleed? Because if I follow the faqih, it will take me to the real rule, reality, what is in the knowledge of Allah. Remember last time I mentioned hukum waqi'i, which is in the knowledge of Allah, hukum zahiri, what is concluded by a mujtahid. Waqi' in reality, zahiri concluded. So he says when we follow marja, is our path to the real hukum in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? وحيث أن فتوى الأعلم أقرب إلى الواقع. And because the most knowledgeable fatwa is most closest to reality, this is the point of weakness which Sayyid al-Khuy will catch. Okay? The most knowledgeable fatwa is most closest to the reality. Sayyid al-Khuy says, no, we can't say that. We don't know what's in the reality. There are things obvious, like alcohol is forbidden, okay? It is a real hukum because the Quran indicates, tawatur hadith, we know that is for sure the hukum. But so that if a mujtahid gives fatwa, alcohol is haram, it is in accordance to the real hukum. Salat, daily salat is wajib. It is a real hukm al-waqi'i is also like hukm zahiri. So if Maraj is saying it is obligatory on a mukallaf to pray a daily salat, so it is in correspondence in line with the real hukm. But is that the case in all the ahkam? No. So what are we trying to seek by following the marja? The true hukum, the real hukum, or the magical word I'm going to use again, hujjah, proof, hujjiyah. What is my purpose? To reach the real hukum, or on the day of judgment to tell Allah, Ya Allah, I followed the knowledgeable, the most knowledgeable, and then that's it. To relieve myself, to dump my responsibility on his shoulder of the marja. Okay? So what is the aim? To reach the real hukum. If you say to read the real hukum, that's impossible. Who knows what the real hukum is in majority of the laws? Sayyid al-Sistani, if you will tell him some hukum, Sayyidina, can you say, by God, this hukum on the Quran, that by God, this hukum is the real hukum? No. I am not going to swear. This is what I've concluded. Apparently, inshallah, it may be accordance to the real hukum. Wallahu al-alim. God knows the best. But I tried my best. Inshallah. He does not say, no, my rule is closest to the real rule. They never claimed this. So this argument is flawed because what is approached is the hujjiyah, the relief from the liability and responsibility, not to be the closest to the real. Maybe the less knowledgeable is close to the real rule, hukm al-waqi'i, less knowledgeable. But I don't know. So I am not following him because it's not hujjah, it's not proof. The intellectual society considered the most knowledgeable proof. So I can't go to less proof. I want to relieve myself. Intellectual society, they are relieved from the liability when they dump it on the shoulder of the most knowledgeable. In religion also, I am living in an intellectual society, and Quran and Islam is part and parcel of the intellectual society. So I have to relieve my liability responsibility. I don't care what the hukm al-waqi' is and who is closest. That's not my business. Jibreel alayhi salam is not descending to tell me. Okay, neither the Maraji are ready to swear on the Quran. So for me, I need to see who's going to relieve me on the day of judgment. And between him and Allah, that's waqi'i, not waqi'i, that is his business with Allah. For me, I need somebody to tell me, okay, you can follow me. I'm going to relieve you from hujj. He's my hujjah. He's my proof. He's going to relieve me from the liability. Having said that, he said that, what was the argument? Again, I come back to the argument. They say, because fatwa of most knowledgeable is more closest to the waqi'. That's Sayyid al-Khuy said, that's flawed argument. Why? Sayyid al-Khuy says, because he has more experience, he has more depth, he has more grasping. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that less knowledgeable cannot be in accordance to the real rule. So he said, so they said he's more knowledgeable, he has more awareness than others. Then, so فَلَا مَنَاصَ مِنَ الْأَخْذِ. So this was their argument, that you have to take from him and not from the less knowledgeable, because he has more awareness, more grasp, more closer to the hukm al-waqi'. You can say more awareness, more grasp, but you can't say more close to something which is unknown. Okay? Maybe not. You can't definitely say that a'lam is more closer to the real rule. No, you can't say that. So that's Sayyid al-Khuy says, وَالْمُتَحَصِّلْ, his response, أن العالم والأعلم بالإضافة إلى العناوين الواردة في أدلة التقليد متساوية. In all these concepts, the alim and a'lam, if we look at them on the aspect of al-hukm al-waqi'i, they both are equal. The probability of this marja to be in accordance with hukm al-waqi'i is similar to this less knowledgeable marja. I don't know. 50-50 chances are. Mutasawi, and he says, how the hell I would know, or how the heaven I would know? That equal, the chances are equal. Mutasawiyan. وَلَا مُوجِبَ لِتَقْدِيمَهُ. If this is your argument, this does not prove alamiyah. This proves that you can choose this or that. So this is not a good argument to prove the alamiyah. Conclusion of Sayyid al-Khouy. Finally, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So he says, فَالصَّحِيح. So the correct is, في الحكم, in the ruling, بوجوب تقليد الأعلم, that the taqlid of a'lam is obligatory due to the seer al-uqala'iyya, the lifestyle of the intellectuals, which we discovered that it has been approved by the religious authority, because the religious authority did not prohibit or condemn or prevent us from using this practice of lifestyle of the intellect. The evidence finished. Now we have one ruling. Is it wajib on me to look for a'lam, to search for a'lam? Okay, so here in nutshell, and then we'll go to the argument. Nutshell, yes, you have. Why? Because if taqleed of a'lam is wajib, and there are two, they are differing in their mas'ala, then it is muqaddimatul wajib wajib. It is same like doing wudu. Okay, is opening the faucet wajib? Yes, because that's the only way you can get water. If there's another way, then that way is wajib, because wudu is wajib because of the salah. So opening the faucet is a prerequisite for wudu. Wudu is prerequisite for salah. Salat is wajib. So taqleed of a'lam is wajib. So looking for this a'lam is also wajib, based on the muqaddimiyya, based on the prerequisite. Okay, what if somebody in the time of searching for a'lam, like when Sayyid al-Khouy died, we group of Hawza scholars and students started looking for the a'lam. Najaf Marja'i said, for whichever you refer, they took the responsibility. You don't have to look for the a'lam for lay people. You refer to Sayyid Sistani, Mubre, relieving for reliability. You refer to Sayyid Sabzawari, Mubre. Sayyid Muhammad al-Rawhani, Mubre. Sayyid al-Gulpaigani, Mubre. So Shias, they went, some of them here, because there was a declaration of Mujtahideen. They took the responsibility on their shoulder. You don't have to search for a'lam. Okay? You can seek anyone. But Hawza students like us and some other scholars, we said, no, we have to find out who's a'lam. We have resources. So it took us about 3-4 months until our conclusion was, maybe some others' conclusion was different. Our conclusion was, Sayyid Sistani is most knowledgeable, a'lam. Okay, with the evidences and testimonies. So now, so that time, what would you do? You do ihtiyat, you do precaution. Okay, you have to do precaution. So in that time, you have to do precaution. Now, there was a case we could not do precaution, so we had to do taqleed. What was that case? Sayyid al-Gulpaigani said it is haram to remain on the taqleed of a deceased person. It is haram to remain on the taqleed of a deceased person. That was Sayyid al-Gulpaigani. In rulings which you have not practiced in. So you have never practiced all the rulings of Sayyid al-Khouy. So you practice. So Sayyid al-Gulpaigani, you say, you can only stay on his taqleed in the rulings which you have practiced. But in rules which you have not practiced, you have to refer, yajib, refer to the living person. But in the rulings which you have practiced, you can remain. So in not practice, you have to refer, you cannot stay. It's haram to stay on rulings which you have not practiced. Sayyid Sistani, Sayyid Sabzawari, they used to say, it is wajib to stay on the taqleed of a'lam. Yajib al-baqa ala taqleed al-a'lam. So now we have Sayyid Sistani says, wajib stay on taqleed of a'lam. Sayyid Gulpaigani says, haram to stay on the taqleed of a'lam. Sayyid Sistani says, in everything. Sayyid al-Gulpaigan says, not in everything. There are areas haram. So how could you do precaution? So we asked the Mujtahideen, what could we do here? If we can't do precaution in the time we are searching for the A'lam. So they said that then choose any one of them. So we chose Sayyid Sistani and Sayyid Sabzawari because they were both, so we chose the majority. So Sayyid al-Rawhani, Sayyid Sabzawari, Sayyid Sistani, Sayyid al-Rawhani, they used to say it's obligatory to stay on Taqlid of Alam. Sayyid Sabzawari gave us permission. So in precautionary, according to the majority, was to stay on the Taqlid of Sayyid al-Khuy. That was after the death of Sayyid al-Khuy Quddasa Sirruh. And after we found out, we referred to Sayyid Sistani. Sayyid Sistani told us, because Sayyid al-Khuy is A'lam of the livings, stay on his taqleed. So that was the testimony of Alamiyah from a marja of a time, that Sayyid al-Khuy is A'lam from all the living ones. He was A'lam from all the living ones. So everybody had to go back to Sayyid al-Khuy. So now, so that was, see the ihtiyat, there are areas you cannot do ihtiyat. Like for example, if one marja says haram, one marja says wajib, you can't do ihtiyat. We explained this issue last week. Okay, we explained this issue last week. Like I'll remind you once again, because we want to use this example again today. Eid issue. So there are two levels. Level of the choosing, or based on the marja, level on based on the application of the ruling. How? You are undecided. You don't know who's A'lam. Sayyid Sistani or Sayyid al-Khuy. So now in this case, you want to do precaution. So the precaution, you can't fast this day. You cannot leave your fast this day. If you will fast this day, according to Sayyid Sistani, is haram. If you break your fast this day, if you fast this day according to Sayyid al-Khuy, is haram. Because in Africa it's proven, but in Sweden it's not proven. So if you follow Sayyid al-Khuy, if you are doing precaution, Sayyid al-Khuy says haram to fast. Sayyid Sistani says haram to break fast, wajib to fast. So two harams, one wajib, one haram is colliding. So there's no precaution here. The only way to do precaution here is to travel. Okay, to travel, because you're undecided who's A'lam. You're doing precaution, and this Eid day comes where there are two different rulings. So here how will you do precaution? To travel. Now, how about Sayyid Sistani says the frequent travelers must fast. So if you're a frequent traveler, you fast, then you have to, you're doing haram according to Sayyid al-Khuy. Okay, so when you're a frequent traveler and you are traveling to an area where Sayyid al-Khuy says you have to break fast, Sayyid Sistani says you have to fast and even pray. So prayer you can do qasr tamam according to Sayyid al-Khuy, Sayyid Sistani. But what about the fast? So here there is no ihtiyat. It is impossible. Ihtiyat is religiously impossible. Religiously, I can't do ihtiyat. There's no way for ihtiyat. So what will you do here? You have to choose then. Choose either Sayyid al-Khuy, either Sayyid Sistani. Because it's impossible to do ihtiyat. The haram and wajib are colliding in the Eid day, and you're traveling, and you're a frequent traveler. So now we come back to, so this is on the level of marja'iyya. You are undecided between two rules, two maraja. Okay, you're doing ihtiyat, and now you have to do ihtiyat, and it's impossible to do ihtiyat in this situation. Yes, if you are not a traveler or a frequent traveler, you can travel and break your fast and come back before dhuhr. That is a precaution for somebody who is undecided. Now, what about if somebody has decided? Somebody is following Sayyid al-Sistani, and Sayyid al-Khuy, Africa, have proven. So many people, they do ihtiyat. Why are you doing ihtiyat? No, I'm doubting. Maybe it's Eid in Sweden. No, it's follow just your marja. What if I'm doubting? If you are doubting today's Eid or not, due to two scholars of Sayyid Sistani are differing, then do istishab. Previously, it is holy month of Ramadan. Eid needs to be proven. Doubt is not proving, not knowledge. So in this case, you continue your holy month of Ramadan. Your follower of Sistani, two Sistani followers, they differ, and you don't know who's right, who's wrong, two Maulanas, which happens in many regions. So you don't know what to do. So in this case, you continue. Precaution is to stay on your holy month of Ramadan. Istishab. Previously, it is holy month of Ramadan. To prove the Eid, you need to have yaqeen. So Imam Sadiq says, لا تنقض اليقين بالشك وإنما انقضه بيقين مثله. Do not invalidate your certainty with a doubt. Break it with another certainty. If you're not certain about Eid, why are you breaking your fast? Or why are you doing precaution? Just fast, continue, enjoy that one extra day of the holy month of Ramadan. Okay? So, again, in nutshell, in Eid scenario, there is area where you cannot do ihtiyat. What is that? When you have two different maraja, you have not decided, you're doing precaution between two maraja. Okay? One marja says global sighting, like Sayyid al-Khui, Africa is Eid. And one marja says, say you are following Taqlid al-Sayyid al-Khui, you're following now Sayyid al-Sistani, you're undecided. Should I leave Sayyid al-Khui and completely refer to Sayyid al-Sistani, or should I remain on his Taqlid? So you're undecided, you're doing precaution. So when you're doing precaution, you have to choose the both opinions. So how can I do Eid and not Eid on the day where Africa is cited, Sweden is not cited? So here you will have to travel. What if you are a frequent traveler? Then you cannot do precaution. This is on the level of selection of the marja, difference in Eid due to the difference of the selection of the marja. But the next example, which mostly happens, your marja is Sayyidi Sistani. Okay, you are doubting. Some Maulana of Sayyidi Sistani says Eid, some Maulana says not Eid. You check the fatwa of Sayyidi Sistani and you do istishab. Continue your day of Eid. You don't have to travel. Unlike some of the mu'mineen, they take their children to kebab, Iraqi or kebab, this and pacha, geber, ya habibi. Let them fast. Don't teach them these loose ends. Train them how to be committed Muslims. Don't give them these loopholes. Then tomorrow, oh, it is permissible for me to travel to eat kebab in Yutiburi or wherever. Okay, so don't train them like this kind of habit. Letting if it's not proven, let them fast. If you are doubting, then let them do istishab, continuation of the holy month of Ramadan. So this is what two examples I'm going to use here. So he says, excuse me, and inshallah we are done. Just this concept, and we'll be done for today. Because these are two sessions, as we mentioned, 45 minutes, 45 minutes, like 1.5 hour session. So if you chose not to have break, so we continue. So he says, well, yes, if a person is able to define the a'lam, okay, then that's it. But if he is not able to define the a'lam, and he wants to do precaution by combining the two fatwas, lam yajib alayhi al-fahs. It is not obligatory. If he is going to live his life entirely doing precaution, then looking for a'lam is not obligatory. But is precaution feasible for everybody? No. So that's why it becomes necessary to search for a'lam. Yajibu al-fahs. Okay. فَإِنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يَحْتَاطْ. If he wants to do precaution, that's fine. It's not wajib to find for him to find who's the most knowledgeable, because he's doing precaution. So there's no specification in his taqlid. وَأَمَّا إِذَا لَمْ يَرِدِ الْعَمَلِ بِالْإِحْتِيَاطِ. If he doesn't want to do precaution and he's not a mujtahid, وَجَبَ عَلَيْهِ الْفَحْص. قَدِّمَةُ الْوَاجِبِ wajib. The prerequisite of obligation is obligation. It's wajib on you to do taqlid of a'lam, wajib on you to find the a'lam. فَإِذَا عَمَلَ بِفَتْوَى حَدِيمًا مِنْ غَيْرِ فَحْصٍ. If he performs the fatwa of one of them without finding who's most knowledgeable, that means he's putting himself for sure in a probable violation. Maybe he's not the a'lam. Maybe your deed went against what is required from you in reality. or not in reality. We are talking about hujjah, okay, proof. So maybe you're not relieved from your responsibility. So there's a 50-50 chance. So you can't do that. You have to do precaution. You have to do precaution. You can't choose anyone, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, presto, and that's how it goes. No. So basically, بفراغ لاحتمال أن يكون الأعلم غيره. أعلم could be other than the one you chose because you did not search. ومعه يحتمل العقاب. And based on that, there's a probability of punishment. Why? Because you might have not done according to whatever relieves you in reality, not according to the ruling of reality. No. معذر واقعا. Whatever relieves you, that means proof for you and against you. إذن وجوب الفحص عن الأعلم وجوب إرشادي. He says it is an advisory direction because it's based on prerequisite. Because if you do not do that, you are putting yourself in trouble. So find the a'lam. So one is wujub shar'i. Remember in the story of Adam and Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, wujub nahi irshadi, nahi taklifi. So here it's an obligatory act, but it's a irshadi, advisory obligatory act. Ila adami, to prevent the responsible person from falling in violation. Okay. Thumma, sorry, was not able to translate the whole thing. Thumma innahu, if he seeks a'lam, if he searches for a'lam, he finds it, presto, like it happened to us after the death of Sayyid al-Khuy Quddasa Sirruh. Wa amma, how if he was not able to find out who's the a'lam? Uh-oh, and I can't, sorry, confusion is there. I don't have capacity to look. I don't have resources. I can't find a'lam. Okay, no hard feelings. If you can't find a'lam due to, we mentioned the reasons of not being able to find in previous sessions, فَإِنْ كَانَ مُتَمَكِّنًا مِنَ الْإِحْتِيَاطِ وَجَبْ. If you are able to do ihtiyat, then ihtiyat is wajib, precaution is wajib. What is the inability? Inability is haram. If there's haram clashes wajib, like the one which was a frequent traveler and he wants undecided the a'lam marja, and one says Eid, one says not Eid. So what will he do? He can't do ihtiyat here. Ihtiyat is a problematic issue for him. Okay? لما إذا فإن كان متمكنا من الاحتياط. We said religious inability or no, physical inability. He can't pray qasr in tamam and the shortage of time. He's sick. The time is short. Or no, he's sick. He can't pray double salat. Or no, he can't find out what are the rules of the opinions of the scholars. So finding resources of ihtiyat, or performing ihtiyat is difficult or impossible in the case of haram and wajib. So ihtiyat is either impossible or difficult, or it is seriously complicated for him. So what will he do? لما تقدم. So فإن كان أحكام واجب احتياط. Why? Because you know one of them is a'lam and one of them is saying wajib. So you have to choose the wajib and leave mustahab. One of them is saying haram. So you have to choose the haram and leave the makruh. So you know one of them is doing so. So he says, because the religious responsibilities are, especially when there's a doubt in the components and there's a knowledge, this knowledge is hujjah, as we discuss in Ilm al-Usul in Shaykh Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr's halaqa. وَلَا طَرِيقَ إِلَى امْتِثَالِهَا. And you cannot, there's only way to fulfill that knowledge of Ilm Ijmali, and you are required one of the two components to choose the toughest components which covers the other side. Choose the wajib, which covers the mustahab. Choose the makruh, choose the haram, which covers the makruh. That means avoid. So if you avoid, that means you avoided makruh, you avoided haram. Choose both, like the salat, qasr and tamam. يتعين عليه الاحتياط. Okay, if he can do ihtiyat, it is important, it is obligatory. So by ihtiyat, he will be corresponding the true reality which is falling upon him, obligatory. Thus, intellectually, he is going to keep harm away from him, intellectually. Because intellectual society, probable harm is kept away. How? Let me tell you. Fasten your seat belts. Is that guarantee I'm going to be clashed, or the plane is going to be clashed, or I'm going to have an accident? No, there's no guarantee. It's probability. Then heck, why do I have to fasten my seatbelt and squish myself in the seatbelt? It's a precaution. There is a probability you might be affected. So fasten your seatbelt. And when they show us these horrifying movies of car accidents and the skull is gone and the brain is out and this and that, then you just put, you are not going to be in that, but there's a probability. God forbid, may Allah keep all of our beloved ones away from these kind of tragedies and issues. Ameen. So fasten your seat belt is ihtiyat. You're not sure you're going to have a car crash, but it's ihtiyat. If, so there's a, as Shaykh Sadr said, in dunyawi things, you take precautionary measures. You do exercise to keep diabetes away. You leave sugar to keep. There's no guarantee that you are going to become sick, but no, probability is there. Nowadays, there is assurance. So these exercises are precautionary measure. Putting a spare tire is a precautionary measure. Intellectual society to relieve themselves from probable difficulties, probable pain, probable agony, probable issues, probable punishments, they stay away from that they do precaution. So why shouldn't we in Islam, to keep the probable punishment away, do that? So dalil al-aqli, it tells us to keep the harm away. Wala athara, and this kind of effect is not when you get in somebody who's probable a'lamiyah, or high probability of alamiyah, lower probability. Probability is probability, he says, doesn't give you knowledge. So either you know that he's alam, no, then you do precaution, because precaution relieves you. Okay? The precaution relieves you. Precaution is priority, because the evidence is they have indicated that if you have probability of this alam over this, it's like equally, they both are equal. Probability does not give you depth. Probability is benefited on the third stage. Third stage. At first stage is find the alam. You can't find the alam, do ihtiyat, precautionary measures, do ihtiyat. Okay? If you can't, because some scholars, they said, if you cannot find the alam, refer to the most probable in alamiyah. If you cannot find most probable in alamiyah, go to the less probable alamiyah. If you can't, then you choose anyone. Okay? Sayyid al-Khuwayn, Sayyid al-Sistani chose a different route. He said, if you cannot find the alam, do the precaution. If precautionary measures are difficult, like we mentioned, okay, then you choose the most probable in knowledge. If most probable is not there, less probable in knowledge. And if you cannot find most probable, less probable, all the probabilities are equal, and you cannot do ihtiyat, then you can choose any one of them. Oh, and this is the final one. وَأَمَّا إِذَا لَمْ يَتَمَكَّنْ مِنَ الْإِحْتِيَاطِ, if he was not able to do the ihtiyat, either because of haram and wajib is colliding, or qasr and tamam, and the time is short, or the sickness, or all the reasons we mentioned, that he cannot do ihtiyat. It's very serious, impossible or seriously hardship for him. He doesn't have the resources of the fatawas of all the ulama. So, للعلم بوجوب التقليد فيتخير بينهما. Okay, then he choose one of them. للعلم بوجود التقليد الأعلم ومردد بين الشخصين. And there is no preferences, this or that. So, in this case, he says, إذا ظن بالأعلمية واحتمل في أحدهما تعين الأخذ بفتوى من ظن واحتمل. So, larger probability and lesser probability are taken after the precaution is not feasible, impossible or difficult. Then you choose the most, which is the most of the cases. No one can come and say Fulan is alam by God, by Quran. Most of them say this is most probable alam is Fulan. Most more probable, strong directions indicate say this is alam. Though there are evidences, but still there are, when we talk in general, to respect other maraja, we say most probable indications, they indicate on say the Sistani being alam. That means we give some chance for others also. But even though we have testimonies of Sayyid al-Sistani being alim, but we don't brag to keep a respectful environment. إذن لا بد من اتباع أحد الفتويين. Thus, one of the two fatwas must be followed. And وحيث أنه يحتمل الأعلمية أو يظنها في أحدهما فيدور أمره. So again, حجة خيرية حجة عينية. I discussed in my last lecture. Go back to that last lecture. I'm not going to open the portal here and the wormhole of حجة, because 2 sessions we discussed حجة خيرية, optional proof or specific proof. So if you have more probability in this person or less probability in this person, then it is not hujjat khiriyya. It's not optional for you to choose. It is a specific person you have to choose, hujjat ayiniyya. And you will be relieved from your responsibility. أو يحتمل حجة عينية. وقد عرفت أن العقل مستقل بلزوم الأخذ بما يحتمل تعيينه للعلم بأنه معذر. So if you know that if you are going to take the less probable, then you are excused because you tried the first stages. So the aql says, okay, that's fine. This is going to relieve. So that means you have to follow. It's not if you have a larger probability, you can go to the lesser probability. It's not if you have lesser probability, so you can refer to. There's no hujjat khiriyya. Still, we are on hujjat ayiniyya. Unless if there is all the probabilities and all the larger probabilities or lower probabilities are equally even, then you can't do precaution. Then you have the choice to choose eeny, meeny, miny, mo, presto, any one of them. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. These are 10 lessons about the taqleed of a'lam. What are the evidence and arguments? Because it's a hot topic nowadays, okay? So I wanted to present this to our advanced level houses students so that they are able to convince in a basic level to the people surrounding them that Alamiyah is proven, and it is a very strong case here of Hausa. The second thing, inshallah, next week, so these 10 sessions are complete. Next week, inshallah, we will have in Arabic and in English the evidences of those who say ittihad al-ufuq, and evidences of those who, like Sayyid al-Khoi, ittihad al-layl, unity of the night, and ta'addud al-afaq, multiple horizons. One horizon, unity of horizon, Sayyid al-Khoi, global Eid, or local Eid, Sayyid Sistani. Next week, inshallah, we are going to open this portal. We're going to bring arguments of Sayyid Sistani, arguments of Sayyid al-Khoi on the highest level, and then we are going to discuss. Because many people, they say, why Sayyid Sistani is not changing? Why? You will know next week why. Why it is not that easy to say why on a marja after you get lost in the deep ocean of bahth and al-kharij of them, and then you will realize. Okay, so now if there is any question, inshallah, we will be able to respond to those questions.